welcome to the Some Disruptors podcast. I am Mac McKelvey with
HK.
And
what up, Mac?
Yeah. What's up, HK? Hold on. Before we even introduce Miriam, has it broken the 100-degree mark in Arizona yet?
Oh my gosh. 82 this morning. 82. I was going to go for a walk, but I told you I did some boxing instead. Yep. So my husband and I, we do a strategic call or a strategic lunch on Tuesdays. So we went out to lunch and he comes sauntering in his flip-flops. He's like, it's cold today. I looked at the temperature, 98. 98 is cold. And I'm from Washington, Miriam, and I've only been here a year, but it's been legit Dante's Inferno or Dante's Booty or whatever you want to call it since like May. And we're staring at like mid 90s with no humidity, which is perfect.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Well,
so yes, Matt.
Let's introduce Miriam Kendall, who is our amazing guest today. And I'm so thrilled. Any chance to talk to Miriam, though, I have to say. I will take it. I'll take it. But I want everyone to meet Miriam. Miriam, spend 20 seconds introducing yourself and welcome.
Thank you. It's so glad to be here. So I'm Miriam Kendall. I've been in marketing and business consulting for 20 plus years. I've been a 3-time startup CMO. I worked at Under Armour. I led their North America direct-to-consumer digital marketing. Prior to that, I was a CRM, one-to-one marketing consultant. And now I'm a co-founder of a company called Kairos Growth Advisors, where we're doing marketing innovation, AI, disruptive technologies, and helping companies kind of jump over all that fun stuff.
I love how that introduction is so modest. So we'll let it roll, but we're going to be digging into that. But before we start, we love to ask our guest to prepare a Real Housewives intro because Heidi and I have our own, and I'm going to kick it over to Heidi to do hers first today. Heidi.
Okay, let me get in character.
Yep, me too. Okay.
If you think my t-shirt makes a statement, wait till you hear my roar.
Well done. Mine is, I may have 2 names, but don't get it twisted. I know exactly who I am. Okay, Miriam.
I have no
drum roll.
As a marketer, I am speechless. I have never done that type of intro before.
It's a Real Housewife intro.
Okay, so here's my intro.
Oh, you got it? Okay.
Oh, okay.
Cheers.
You know what? Cheers. I can, that one, we can take that. I think that actually works really well, in fact. And especially for today's subject, which I'm extremely excited about. Heidi and I are both very excited about it. We were just chit-chatting about talking to somebody who could tell everybody out there, so you want to be a CMO, a startup CMO, ... And that's what we're going to be talking about today is Miriam coming in after, a storied career on the marketing side, obviously in large companies, coming in as a startup CMO. So that's what we want to dig into today. Are you game for sharing lots of insights and provocative thoughts, Miriam?
I will share everything I've got. I am an open book. You know me, Mac.
Right. Heidi, stretch out. You did box today, right? Wait.
I'm limbering up here. Oh, my shirt. My shirt today. Marketing. It's director of marketing superhero. We wear capes. We do. Okay. Sometimes we want to hang ourselves with the capes. Other times they help us fly, right?
That's right.
Just depends on the situation.
All right, we're jumping in. Miriam, talk to us. Let's set the stage. I know that this is not a clean answer either, but what is the role of today's CMO in a startup? Generally speaking.
It's everything. And that is what it's, and it's really evolving too. There is so much pressure and expectations of the CMO. So it's funny because your question is like, how do you become a CMO? I'm like, the first question is, do you actually want to become a startup CMO?
Be careful what you wish for. Be careful.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. I will say it has been a pure pleasure and I have enjoyed most of my moments as CMO. But it's literally everything. Startups are just a different beast, right? You have to be, chef, cook, bottle washer, whatever that saying is. And you do. And in marketing in particular, the CMO's role spans across creative, brand, PR, to performance and email and customer relationship management and nurturing and retention. And then you also have to be an executive and present to boards. And you also have to mentor these young employees that are just coming in and learning things. So you really have to have such a diverse skill set. It's one of the reasons I actually love the role. I kind of joke about, like, do you really want to be one? It's very complex these days, and the pressure is insane. One of the new things that's happening is they're changing the role and the name of it. You may have, like, chief revenue officer. Is it a chief marketing officer, or what's the
Chief
difference?
growth. I like the chief
Exactly.
growth
Is it
officer.
both? Do you have both? Which is also weird. But so I think people just don't even know what to call it, because it encompasses so many different diverse skill sets that you need. But it's a fun challenge for anyone who likes to put together puzzle pieces, because that's what I really look at it as. It's a bunch of puzzle pieces. How do you put them together in an optimized way, with people and technology and strategy and delivering results?
Oh, and don't forget you have no budget.
Oh yeah, without any budget or any people,
Right.
right?
Right.
No,
No
you have
people.
30 people, but they all have 2 days of experience, and you're expected to,
Exactly. Teach
yeah,
them and
come
deliver at the
on
same
now.
time.
That's right.
Right.
So the role today is a short-lived one too, right? So we've got
Mhm.
about a 2-year cap typically on the role. And Heidi and I were talking about why that is. Why do you think that is?
Um, there's a couple of reasons.
I can tell
One
you
is,
you go first.
yeah. So in the direct to consumer businesses, the CMO is closest to the revenue. So if you don't have a sales team, the CMO is right there in charge of the revenue, right? And so if something goes wrong, and there's, like I said, there's so much pressure on CEOs, if something goes wrong, who are you going to blame? Right? The person closest to the revenue. I can't take ownership myself. So, so it's just natural that they're going to put it on the CMO. The boards expect a lot. I think the expectations of the CMO are typically very unrealistic. And so you need to make sure you get in with a company where you have a somewhat realistic board. You're never going to get a perfect board. A somewhat realistic CEO and someone who wants to support you and partner with you. And, we're all in this together. But, when times are tough and VC money is scarce, and that, and it's really, really tough these days, there's so much pressure on these poor CEOs that they've got to figure out what to change. Like, if this is not working, what do we change? And if they're not closer to it, they just will change the people instead of, what's really going on. So, sad to say, that's my honest answer, but I think that's a lot of what's going on today.
Well, and I think about, you pointed out direct to consumer, but in an environment where, and Mac and I have talked about this extensively, where you have a head of sales and head of marketing goes first every time, because sales is going to throw marketing in front of the bus. And honestly, that's why I kind of rolled into learning about the sales function being a career marketer, is because I got tired. I always reference marketing and sales are like monkeys that sling poo at the zoo.
Yeah.
Right? Marketing's always pissed because sales doesn't work the leads, and sales is pissed because marketing doesn't deliver the perfectly qualified leads that will convert every freaking time. Right. And it's like, I got to admit, sorry to my sales leadership as I talk into the large mic, sales rhythm is broken more often than not, and marketing gets blamed for it. And I've been on that side, and I can say that when you dig in, and it's more times I fix a sales cadence and a rhythm on the sales side, anything. And Mac, you and I talked about it, product market fit, that product marketer being the crux of your marketing, like your vision and what you're doing in marketing, and understanding your buyer. If that's broken, it doesn't matter how beautiful your sales and marketing teams are aligned. I always chuckle. I heard somebody say that marketers, CMOs have 9 lives. They're like cats.
Yeah.
And when you get thrown off the couch, you want to make sure that you land on your feet. Sometimes you don't, on your back, maybe a life gone. But anyways, I'm sorry. Not to piss off my sales brethren, but it's always marketing's head that roll. Always. And it feels like in startups, they hire salespeople first. We're going to just go and not know what the hell to say about this thing, but we're going to have salespeople and they're going to magically get it done. Right.
Yeah,
which
I
I
took
think
one
is,
CMO role, and my first like order of business was to get sales and marketing together as a lot of, and we actually labeled it Project Harmony. I was like, we're not going into another meeting with the CEO where we're like pointing fingers at each other. We're doing this together. We're gonna have a pre-meeting until we get our act together. But like, you can't have that, right? Like, it's all got to work together.
well, and I think that both roles have changed tremendously, right? Because I think even the role of sales, I mean, I was just presenting last night at Cal Poly marketing class, and we were talking about the the unrealistic expectations certainly put on marketing, but what is the role even of modern sales and marketing in this universe, right? And I think marketing has gone through, you just said an incredible change, and sales has one job, which is close the revenue, right? Marketing has to go after the 95% of your TAM that's not ready to buy at any given time, right? We've got to segment that, understand every possible dynamic about that customer. Oh, and by the way, 85% of customers, which Sixth Sense says, 85% of customers aren't going to even talk to a salesperson, right? Or they won't talk to a salesperson until they're 85% through the process.
Right.
So if marketing hasn't done an amazing job at the top of the funnel, right, that sales job gets so much harder mid funnel and through the conversion. And again, that's like 8 jobs that I just said, right? So the sales team has, sellers have one job, which is conversion. Our job is touching everything above the funnel, through the funnel. By the way, the funnel doesn't end, right? So it goes through the purchase, and then post funnel, we own all of the advocacy build and the retention. So my question to you, because this is my opinion or my question, not all founders, how educated are founders about modern marketing today and modern sales today?
How do you
And
define modern marketing and sales, Mac?
and let me take it up one more level. And how knowledgeable are VCs about the dynamics and the needs of today's marketers and salespeople? Because I think it has changed categorically in the last 10 to 15 years. And I'm not sure all constituents have kept up with those changes. So I think it's a little bit of a lack of understanding and education. And I don't mean that disrespectfully. These are
100%.
brilliant people.
But is modern marketing defined by you? Is that like social media, or is that like using an abacus to for your budget? Like you know what I'm saying? Like
No,
what's
I just need
modern?
one hand. I just need one hand for my budget. It's $100 to no. No, I think it goes back to the fact that marketing, and Miriam sort of alluded to this, is a horizontal across the entire organization. It's not a vertical. So I think a lot of founders treat marketing in a silo, and we marketers know we touch every single aspect of the business.
Right.
So right there, you're in a massive disconnect from the board, from and I say VCs, and I say that loosely, but the board, and definitely the C-suite. And then you have a head of sales and a head of product that have their own remits that are in their silos because they have one job. I think we as marketers have. I mean, that's why our mascot is an octopus, right? Awesome, the octopus. You
Exactly.
literally have to have 25 plates in the air at any given time. So
Yeah.
that's my
I think the
perspective.
biggest problem is that everybody thinks they're a marketer. Like
Oh,
everybody
there's
thinks
that
that they
too.
know marketing. And that's to me the most frustrating thing. Like I love a CEO who says, you know what, this is really your thing. Educate me. I'll educate them all day long. But it's the ones that say, I know how to do this stuff. I don't know why you're doing it that way. I don't, like, and the VCs too. They all have opinions on, what to do and how to do it and how much to spend on what. And I always tell people, it's like a CMO is like a director of an orchestra, a conductor of an orchestra. Like
Yep.
you've got all of these different instruments. And if you get them singing together, then you will have the most powerful, beautiful output. But when you can't, or you don't have control, or you've got someone trying to control the violas while the cello's doing something else, like it doesn't work together. But it can be such a beautiful thing. But if someone knows one piece of it, oh, well, I see social media ads. Oh, so that makes you a marketing expert. Okay. Like, no, it doesn't. And I think that's the biggest problem. It's not just that they don't know it. It's that they think they know it and
Yep.
they really don't know it.
My telltale sign is this sentence. All we need is
Or
And
because we've always done it this way. We can't make
fill in the
change.
blank. Right.
But we've
Fill in the
always
blank.
done a trade show and spent $100,000 at the trade show.
Yeah.
We've always done it that way.
has
So why do you need to come in and do it differently and upset the apple cart?
Right.
Well, all we need is, or all
Yeah.
you need to do is, because as soon as I hear those words, all we need is, I'm out. Because I
I just need
know.
one more piece of collateral, Mac.
Yes. I just
One
need a
more
little
piece
more
of
content.
perfect collateral.
Yep.
Perfect.
I need
And the
one
other
more,
thing
I
that
need one more article.
the other thing that I like, it's a campaign, it's a portfolio of channels. It's not just one channel. And if you look at each one individually, half of them aren't going to look like they're performing. But if you take them out of the mix and you do the A/B testing, you will see that they contribute to the sale. And that's what's frustrating too, is these people who just don't understand how it all works together. It's complicated. Like, I don't expect people to understand.
But how do we educate? Because I think that I think you're nailing it. I think so much of the disconnect. So I want to talk about how to become a CMO and what the role is, but I think people need to know going in that there is a lot of education that you do as a head of marketing. Whether you're a head, VP, SVP, CMO, you are doing constant education throughout the organization. I don't really think that's fair. I'm going to go on record and say that. However, that's why we started Start a Marketer, and that's a whole other
But I
conversation.
think we should have a point of clarification, Mac, for folks. Not every company has a chief marketing officer.
That's right.
But I've worked at lots of companies where you're doing that role. I've worked at $1 billion company doing that role, but they didn't have a CMO. They had a sea of chairs and floor, but you're doing that role. And so I think we want to make sure that when we're talking about it, I think we're really talking about executive leadership in that suite. At the end, the buck stops, throat to choke, whatever you want, because I think people are like, they think about that CMO as a coveted seat, and there's not that many of those.
Yeah.
Because to your point earlier, I think they see marketing. A lot of companies see marketing as pretty pictures and brand.
Right.
And they can't get around that, right? So I'm sorry, Mac, I didn't mean to interrupt, but I want to make sure that when people are listening to it, I think there are some bad marketers I've known that bust their butt, performance gains their entire career, and never have a C title because they never work for a company that has a C title as an opportunity. So anyways, I'm going to get off my soapbox now.
No, but this is a good vein to go. It's a good track to go down. So Miriam, the companies that you worked for where you were CMO, what attracted you to those roles? Like, let's start with the first one, right? Like, it was M. Jemmy, right?
Yeah.
Was your first CMO,
So the first one was M. Jimmy, Italian shoes. I was just coming from Under Armour, where I ran the performance side. So it was North America, direct to consumer, digital marketing. So all the performance side for North America, which I'm going to tell you, the pressure was immense. So I became very skilled at the craft of the performance and the numbers, but I had no control whatsoever over the brand side. And when I came in, they were completely and utterly separate. We worked on it together. We tried to kind of build
I'm sorry,
bridges.
Miriam, you're talking about Under Armour. They were totally separate.
Under Armour, yeah. So totally separate brand, and the athletes and all the cool stuff that Under Armour did, not me. All the performance side. So trying to build that bridge, but I could see the power of what was going on. But because I think, and no excuses, but like we were under such immense pressure to deliver that it was really hard to see outside of my bubble. So when I got the opportunity to be chief marketing officer for M. Jimmy, the Italian shoe company, I was like, amazing. I can put in a much smaller company, but I can put the performance with the brand together, and I can play that orchestra, and I can make it sing. And that was really, really exciting to me. And then you throw in Italian shoes and I'm yours.
Okay.
I'm a girl.
Now that I hear you say it out loud, well, of course it's because, no, but it's not, because I think you just said it did match. It matched you have all of those skills. It just was putting them all together in one role.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I was a consultant before, so I did have more of those skills. But while I was at Under Armour, I really focused on the and honed in on the performance side. But to put it all together, the other thing as a consultant, you don't own it. You don't own the results. Right. And so it was really great to be the one in charge of all of that and all of it coming together. And it was a really exciting time at M. Jimmy. They were going under a lot of changes. They were, one of the cool direct-to-consumer kids when that was the cool thing. And so it was a great transition, but a big transition, billion-dollar companies to small startups.
Fun fact.
Go ahead. Sorry.
Fun fact. When I met Mac, the company I worked for, Play Network. We were the in-store music and video provider for Under Armour, and we opened the Baltimore store with the whole, when you walked through that was the concept created by Play Network. I ran marketing there for that company. But fun
I did not
fact.
know that. That's
Yeah. I don't even
awesome.
know, are the retail stores even open any longer?
Yeah, yeah.
Are they?
Yeah, they
What a
are.
cool concept that was back in the day. You walked
Yeah.
through and you were like getting yelled at, like, and you could smell the sweat coming, like you were at the game. Okay. Anyways, sorry.
Good
Took me back.
times.
Took you back a few years there.
Teenagers, we know that smell.
I think we just take a quick pause to thank our sponsor, which is Startup Marketer, by the way. So let's take a moment and we'll be right back.
We love startups, but marketing for them can be hard. Whether you're a founder, a seasoned marketer, or a recent marketing grad, Startup Marketer is here to help. Startup Marketer, or SOME for short, is a first-of-its-kind marketing ecosystem designed by startup marketers with experience working with over 100 startups. We understand the unique challenges you face because we've been there, and we're sharing our cheat codes for success. With bespoke marketing templates, on-demand courses, interactive sessions with experts, and a vibrant community of like-minded professionals, SOME combines accelerator muscle with community wisdom. You can even book an expert to troubleshoot or ideate in real time with senior strategists and senior doers. In a world where marketing is a critical element for startup success, SOME equips you with everything you need to drive growth and stay ahead. So join SOME today and elevate your marketing game. Visit thestartupmarketer.com.
I have a question for you, Miriam. So go back for a minute before I want to come back to MGEMI in a minute. I want to go back to though before Under Armour, because something I remember in one of our early conversations is you talked about the work that you did. Because what I want to help the listeners understand is what kind of path to CMO look like. And
Yeah.
when you started early in your career, you weren't necessarily just doing marketing consulting. Can you talk a
Right.
little bit about that?
Yeah. So I always say there's three kind of paths to CMO. So there's the creative brand geniuses, right? Who grow and they learn to do the performance side. And then there's the performance side, which is more numbers and technology. And then you learn to do the creative side. Or there's the other path, which is the one that I took. So I came in from the consulting side, which, by the way, when I hit Under Armour, it was a steep learning curve. I have to admit, like going from the consulting world to inside the company. But so when I didn't even think of, so CRM, customer relationship management, for me as a consultant going in, I would call it a customer strategy, but I never called it marketing until I got to Under Armour, because what I did was I worked with product, I worked with the call centers, I worked with sales and, finance and HR and technology and everybody who touched the customer. Because, if you think about it, that's what makes the sale. It's all of those different pieces of the experience. So, I mean, in some ways I'm lucky because that's my grounding. And that's, I grew up with companies that were actually developing methodology. I'm going to date myself, but like Peppers and Rogers Group and a company called Exchange Partners, where they're really developing this methodology about how to use this technology to get to understand and to know your customers better and to put it together. But we never called it marketing. And going into marketing, I realized I'm not a typical marketer because I don't stay in my swim lane. I have to talk to product. I have to talk to sales. I have to talk to, like I can't not do it. So I look at marketing probably a little bit differently than some. But it was funny because when I first started the marketing role, I thought it was more limited. I'm like, because I'm used to doing these, bigger project, these strategy project, whatever, across all these things. But then I realized like marketing within itself, there's no shortage of things. It is extremely complex and there's plenty to do. So then I just honed in on like the marketing side of it, but I still find myself very collaborative with my partners. And I think that for successful CMOs, it's really, really important to reach across all the different disciplines and make sure you're empathizing with your peers and you're working with them, because you can't do it in a silo. You absolutely can't.
Well, let's talk about that. So let's jump back to MGEMI now. So you leave Under Armour and you jump into your first CMO role. What was some of the most surprising things to you when you first started?
Gosh.
Was it just the sheer volume of work prior to, like, confusing prioritization? Like, what was there anything that really stood out?
Yeah, I think part of it at MGME in particular was the kind of transition from the people who kind of had been running marketing to me, and and I will say that there were four founders who'd worked together for literally 25 years. And so I'm kind of inserted into that mix. And so, trying to find my way there was a little bit surprising. But in terms of pulling the pieces together, I think the other thing that maybe was a little bit surprising is kind of the ownership that people had over marketing. And I think it's just because that's how it had been. And so me coming over and I was new in the role. And so I didn't want to be too forceful, it's just not like my style. But I think in hindsight, I should have maybe been a little bit stronger in whipping marketing together and not letting people who previously kind of owned things continue to own them, and really pull it together a little bit more quickly than I did. It just took time. I tried to do it in a more collaborative, nice, gentle way. And sometimes you just need to rally the troops and say, this is what we're doing.
Put a stake in the ground.
Yeah.
I would like to know about, so you walk into an organization brand new. How do you approach getting yourself up to speed? Anything from staffing to like, where do you start? And I know in an interview path, they ask you like, what does your first 30 days look like? So we can say, what does your first 30 days look like? Like, what does that look like?
For sure. Well, Mac will tell you, I'm a people person. So the first thing is like, I want to talk to the people, and I want to talk to everybody in the marketing team. And then I want to talk to my peers, and I want to talk to other people, and everybody I talk to, I say, who else should I talk to? So I spend a lot of time talking to people and first getting to know them as people. I mean, because to me, like that's the way you work together best as a team, is you really understand, and especially younger people, like what motivates you? What do you want to do? Where do you see yourself? Like, how do we work together as a team? So a lot of that kind of softer stuff is really where I focus my initial, and building those relationships, because you can't do it on your own. So you really have to have people, within marketing and across the different disciplines. So that's number one. The second thing I do is there's always low hanging fruit. There's always and in these conversations, and you get a document dump and you look at everything and you start to kind of figure things out. So one of the things you want to do is you want to try to find some optimizations that you can do that make a difference, but it's just low hanging fruit, because you want to make an impact, right? You want people to know, like, yeah, I know what I'm doing. I'm in here for a reason. And you kind of show them what you're doing. So the first thing is kind of that low hanging fruit and optimizing the current channels that you're in. So don't open any new channels at the beginning. Just figure out what you're doing wrong. Make sure you're doing the best you can with what you've got. And then the next step is, okay, we need to open up XYZ new channels. What's the priority for them? Put them in priority order and start to open them up. Because I'm a big believer in that, you don't want to be a slave to the Google and Facebook algorithms, and that you need to have a number of channels open. And you really can't do that if you're just like in a single or two channel focus. So opening up those new channels. And then once you've got those all kind of playing together, then that's when, like, for me, like the fun stuff begins. It's like, let's think outside the box. Like, what are our competitors not doing? What are things that we can do to really differentiate ourselves? And that also comes into play when you're talking to like the people in product, and, can we create new products together? Can we, and you talk to people in customer service and you say, what are people telling us? What are the barriers to purchase? What do we need to fix here? And then you can do like the fun stuff. And that's what I really love about marketing.
Follow-up question.
Yeah.
How does that differ if you're walking into a brand spanking new? We'll even call it stealth. You got a really baby startup. What is that on that first motion? How different is that for you? What does that 30, 45, 100 days look like for you?
Versus like the larger companies?
Versus inheriting a team, optimizing what's already been set up. We're talking like there's no foundation. There's a foundation, but nothing else, right? There's walls.
But are you hiring a CMO at a baby stage? Because I'm thinking you're not.
Well, we all know you shouldn't, but we all know that they do, right? So,
well, one thing I will say is I have strong feelings about this, and I don't know if you do, Mag, but there's a big difference to me, like what a CMO is versus like a head of marketing. So like at that small stage, You may have someone, okay, you're supposed to build a marketing team. And they're supposed to be doing it and running it all at the same time. And I've talked to companies about this. And my strong feeling is, my point of view is, you need both. You need the doers, and you also need the person that's like looking ahead. And even if it's a very small company, you can do the fractional route. Like, you don't have to have a full-time expensive CMO, but it's really, really hard for people to focus on all the tactical things that need to be done, designed, figured out. There's a lot of logistics and trafficking and all this stuff. And at the same time, the CMO is saying, okay, what does our team look like, in a year from now? Or what technologies do we not have? Because those things don't happen overnight. And if you're not thinking several months in advance, 6-8 months in advance, you're going to miss the window. And in startups, and especially these hyper growth startups, they move so fast. The competitors move really fast. You got to be, ahead of them. And it's really, really hard to do if you are responsible for getting out every single, tweet and social media post and the marketing. You just, it's different skill sets. It's different focus. So, if you go into a smaller team where a company where you have to build the team and you have to focus on that. So, and I have actually, as a consultant, done that. It's just a different skill set. But for me, it's all about, and I think very strategically about this. What are we trying to do? What's our game plan? And then you staff up for it. And then you say, what are the tools we need for it? And then you say, what is the budget we need for it? But don't make a move. Don't do a marketing plan until you really know your strategic objectives and the expectations. Because I think that's a lot of time, like, people get caught up in, let's just do marketing. Let's just do it. Just spend some money on Facebook and no.
All we need is all
we need is
more content.
Exactly.
So, Miriam, if you in any of the startups that you've worked in, if you could have done something, actually, I'm going to change my question. I'm going to ask a different question. What are the best attributes in a strong CMO? What makes an incredibly strong CMO?
I think, and I'm biased probably because I am more of a people person, but someone who can seamlessly work with a CEO and a board, as well as with the most junior marketers. I think that is a super difficult skill set to have, but I think it's really, really important to be successful. I think you have to have a growth mindset. So there's always going to be technologies you don't know. There's always going to be new processes and things that you don't understand. And you've got to continue to evolve yourself. Like, I'm taking a course in AI, because I have to know it, and you never get too old to stop learning these things, because if you're going to be managing people, and I always say, you don't have to do everything yourself, but you need to know enough to be able to understand what they're going through and to be able to manage them and to talk to them and converse about this. So I think continuous learning, being great at managing up and managing down. I think those are the main things, and also just having the self-confidence to move forward. Things are going to fail, right? And I call them learnings, not failures, but things are going to happen, and you just need to roll with it, and you need to roll fast, and you need to get over it, and you need to move on to the next thing, and you need to help your team do the same thing. But constantly test and learn, and evolve yourself personally, evolve your team, evolve your technologies, and then to your point, Mac, educate the VCs, educate the CEOs and your peers so that they know what's going on. And I think that's really important.
You guys were saying earlier, about the role of the CMO kind of morphing into CGO, CRO. Have you seen in the ecosystem there being less, they're effectively collapsing a CMO role and then effectively calling it a CRO role and rolling all of the disciplines underneath that role specifically? What are you seeing there?
I think I think people are playing around with the title, honestly. I don't think they know what they want. I think, and this is terrible for our brand friends, but I think people are so performance driven these days that they want to make sure that whoever's leading this can do the performance side and the growth side of marketing. And so when you say CMO, some people think of, super creative brand people who may not be as skilled at the performance side, which is really unfair to the brand guys. But I think when they talk about like chief growth officers, they want someone who can forecast and predict and run the numbers and do all of that stuff. And when you say CMO, you just don't know exactly what you're going to get. And I mean, there's so many brand people that are so super impressive and they're so creative. And you're not going to get that if you get someone who's super skilled at the forecasting side. There's always a give and take. Sometimes they even split up the roles into like chief brand officers and chief growth officers. I personally like it all under kind of one umbrella, like I say, so that it kind of all fits together. But I think people are just playing with the titles, and I think I don't even know if they know what they want, all the VCs and all the CEOs, they want the numbers, right? So
They want the numbers.
yeah, make it look good. Don't embarrass me, but I just need the numbers,
And so you are with Kairos now and you're also part of the Book an Expert. So everyone that's listening that knows about startup marketers should know that they can book you. When you're getting the calls today, if you've been a 3-time CMO, you've had a great exit, you've had a storied career and continue to have a storied career. What are the questions why are people reaching out to you today? What are the gaps that they're trying to fill?
So people still call me about CMO roles. So there's that. I think the other thing that people do reach out to me for is innovation, which is why I think Kairos is kind of a natural extension of that CMO role. Because I've always been, like I say, the fun stuff for me is like the innovation stuff. It's doing things differently. But I think that is the thing that people are missing. I think a lot of like chief marketing officers, chief digital officers, not that they're scared, a little bit scared, but just apprehensive. There's so much going on, and I think they feel overwhelmed. And and people who have worked with me, they know I'm a trusted partner. Like I'm there for them. I'm a total empath. Like I take on their pain, and I think being able to truly be a partner in this very chaotic, overwhelming, ever evolving kind of discipline or multiple disciplines they're really looking for that partner who can come in. And I also have a huge network of people and partners that can come in and help, because I know where my limitations are and I know when to bring in the troops and to help out. But I've got a ton of like vetted and trusted partners that I can bring in. So I think that's what they're kind of looking for.
Let me ask you a question. For a lot of the people that listen to the podcast and are part of Startup Marketers are earlier in their career. Mm-hmm. And they're probably thinking about what the trajectory looks like for them. And to Heidi's earlier point, there are fewer and fewer CMO roles in the startup world. So is there a ceiling now on people's growth, or should they still be considering that trajectory if it's the right one for them? That's question number one. Part two to that then is, what should they be doing now to prepare for that role in 5 to 8 years or what have you?
Yeah. So one, I don't think there's a ceiling. I really don't. If there's a ceiling in their company that they're in today, go find another company. Great marketers are in demand. People they'll chew them up and they'll spit them out, but they're always in demand, right? I think one of the things that young, and I tell this to everybody that I work with, figure out what skills you don't have that you need to have to be a CMO. You don't need to have everything, but you do need a breadth. Like if you're a creative person, you need some performance experience. If you're a performance person, you need some brand experience. So you need to cross that chasm. And so what I tell people is, you need to get your day job done, but if this is important to you, I will find you projects. I will find you things that you can either just shadow and learn, or you can volunteer when I have weekly marketing meetings and I'll tell this is what we're doing. Jump in, raise your hand, volunteer, and just get that experience. You don't necessarily have to be responsible for it. And everybody's looking for extra hands, right? So maybe you put in a little extra time. Maybe you do a little bit of nights and weekend work. I know it's taboo, but if you want to get ahead and you want to get this experience, the other thing that people can do is they can volunteer for charities and things like that, and just start to do things for them. And you can take classes. That's what I'm doing, there's like I do Coursera, but they've got like the Wharton School, like they have amazing opportunities online. Udemy, I think, and like there's a million of them online that have like these courses. But just continue to have that growth mindset. It's so important. Don't stop learning once you're out of school. Don't stop learning once you're in a job. And don't sit back and just think that things are going to happen for you. You need to design your career because it does take a long time. There are so many skills to learn, but keep pushing forward and also work with your manager, work with your CMO, like make sure that they know what you want and that they're going to be your champion. They're going to help you get there. Find mentors that you can talk to. But you have to drive your career. And I always tell this to young people, like you own your career. I will help you and I'll do anything I can, but you have to tell me what you want to learn. I'll give you my opinions on things, but don't keep it quiet. Like you got to push for yourself. You got to advocate.
I want to talk about something you said earlier, though you talked about the demand in that seat can be grueling. Your expectation, your measure to success, and the turn time, the 2-year turnover in that role. I think that's a really important message for our younger listeners because I think everyone aspires to be in that seat, regardless of whether or not they know what that seat represents. You see, in more and more, you see startups that are guilty of wanting to hire the big ticket CMO, but they hire the junior individual and give them a title. Yeah. And I mentor individuals consistently at all the levels, telling them that, hey, having the conversation around skill set and experience, and you'll get there, got to be patient. But when you're in that corner office or in your own office, staring at yourself in an executive meeting, you're that throat to choke. And I don't think that many of our young marketers recognize they trade strategy and managing people and forget about all of the other things that go along with sitting in that seat. So I appreciate you talking about that because, we know that we're only as good as our investor and the additional dollars and runway they're going to give us. And it's tough. It is a stressful seat to live in. And I think people look at it as super sexy and can be, but it's also really tough. And I appreciate you talked about that earlier. And we just kind of were like, yeah, it's hard, but it's hard. People is hard.
No, it's an excellent point. But I don't want to discourage young people from trying to get there because,
sure,
like I say, it's a fun job. I mean, in some ways, like I said, it's putting the puzzle pieces together. It is the kind of culmination of it's what you want. It's like you finally get there. And so there's some excitement to it that way. But also, once you've had your first CMO role, it's so much easier to get your second. So don't be like, and people, they just, there's huge turnover, but don't be discouraged by it.
Yeah. I think it's more about, my message is more about be patient. It'll come.
Yeah.
You learn, you're good, it'll come. Right. Yeah. And if you rush into it, it'll be a lot more painful than if you cut your teeth and you're experienced in that role, for sure.
Right. I think that's true. I mean, be patient, but also be strategic about it. Like plan out your path because like I say, no one's going to do it for you. And I think some young people think that things are just going to happen for them.
Yep.
True.
Good
point.
And it's interesting. I think that there's lots of tracks to CMO too. And I think that's what makes this role so interesting because like Heidi has spent a lot of time in sales too, which I think makes her an even more formidable marketer. I don't even think we call you a marketer. You're more of an operator, I think, but you have all the sides, right? So for me, I was a chief of staff for 10 years at 4 companies. And I think that's how, not quite that long, but I think that's how I got a lot of the soft skills. Like, I don't know how many marketers get in startup world. I think in large companies, there's plenty of infrastructure for professional development, much less at the startup, in the startup world. However, that's why we built Startup Marketer too, right? Is professional development and acceleration of your career, because there isn't a lot offered to us to help us understand. There's the hard skills, which you said earlier, right? You got to know the performance side. You got to know the brand side. You got to understand product marketing. You got to understand all that other stuff. But you also have to know the soft skills, when to step up and self-advocate and when to let things simmer a little bit, and, how to be an executive. This is not something that's, I don't think, ever taught in the startup world. especially for
No, and
marketing.
I think the offerings of startup marketer are so important. Like I wish I had those when I was a chief marketing officer, because there's no professional development. I mean,
Yeah.
very, very minimal, if any, professional development dollars. All the templates and things that you have and you're offering, the access to experts. Like none of the startups I worked for had any of that. I mean, I would do it from my own network, but but I was lucky that I came in with a network. But a lot of
Yeah.
these guys just don't have them. They're just starting out.
And you just said it, that we built what we wanted, what we really would have helped us
Yeah.
earlier in our career and throughout our career. Because I think your background is so amazing, because you really did span, your trajectory makes a lot of sense, and you spanned all of the right roles to put you in a really solid seat to be a highly effective CMO. Not everyone is afforded or has those opportunities. I think you sought them out, and maybe it wasn't the direct, it wasn't the
Yeah.
direct arrow that you had maybe hoped it would be. But I think the message to people listening is a little bit of, it's self-advocacy, right? It's
Yeah.
fighting for yourself, but it's being really clever about how you learn business and learn soft skills and learn the things that are going to make you an even better marketer. Oh, and then by the way, become an amazing marketer. And I'll get off my soapbox when I say this. I said this last night also when I'm speaking to the younger folks. I said, look, you have to think of yourself as a marketer, as a professional athlete. Professional athletes are never satisfied with their performance. They always are trying to figure out, how do I learn one better step or shave this much
Yeah.
off of that? And every single incremental improvement that they make throughout their careers is directly translates into the impact they have in the market. But they are insatiable about learning and competing and being better. And I don't see a lot of marketers that act like that.
You are so right. I love that analogy, and it's so true. And the other thing that professional athletes do is they measure their progress in every single thing that they do. And so, giving yourself your own like scoreboard, and whether it's your own like KPIs or whatever, but making sure that you are constantly, like you said, Mac, like just measuring and improving constantly. It's endless. But I mean, hopefully, if you're going to be a CMO, you've got to enjoy it. You've got to enjoy doing that, or you're
Yeah.
going to be miserable, because it really is required of the job. You have to
Yep.
constantly push. You have to constantly be on it, and on everybody on your team, to make sure that they're doing the same thing so that it all works together. But that's a great analogy. It's intense, but I mean, that's the kind of people that great marketers, that's the kind of people that attract. So
Yeah.
so if that's what you want to do, like that's your
It's sort of,
personality,
yeah, it's sort of, then immerse yourself, right? Then
Yeah.
become that thing, right?
Yeah.
Become that all-encompassing CMO, and do what you would do if you were preparing for anything. You want to run for office. You have to constantly prepare and hone and retool and reskill and network and be in the communities, be on the board, be in the market you serve too. I think
Yeah.
as marketers, I don't think we're as good at that as we could be. I think we should be more present in front of our customers, in front of our industry. Sales is at all those things and is very, very visible. But
But I think also finding a community, like startup marketer, like find other marketers that you can talk
Yeah.
to across different industries so you can share kind of openly. Like find your people, find your tribe, find people you can talk to outside of your own company.
Let me ask you this. So you came from big brand and went to startup. For other marketers out there who are considering a similar path, right? They work at GM or Procter & Gamble, whatever. What would you tell them of how best to prepare to be a CMO in the startup space? Besides,
Well, if you're
yeah,
Bulletproof vest. Kidding.
Yeah. Wear Kevlar.
It's definitely different. But I would say if you're at a big company, take advantage of all the big company things, like if they send you to conferences, the professional development, the leadership programs, whatever they offer, like suck that stuff up. Like if they have mentorship programs, whatever it is, take advantage of being at a big company. When you go to a startup, you will not have, you've got a startup marketer, but like you won't have it on your own. You have to go out and get it, right? But brace yourself. It is different. Be open to the difference. Listen to people who have been there, people who've been there for a long time, who've like made it, who've lasted. find out what their secret sauce is, find out how to work with the CEO and the CFO and what their ticks are, like really get in and I always say, like, learn the people side, because you can't do anything on your own. It really is a team sport. Team sport athletes, like, it kind of comes back to it. But get to know them and maybe I'm a little too personal, but like, I like to get to know people personally. Like, what motivates you? What do you like? Like, what do we have in common? And so you create that kind of bond that, when you're in what's the saying? The troops together, trenches together. When you're in the trenches together.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. When you're in the trenches together, that, you've got each other's back. You've got like a sense of trust, and you have to do that quickly because things move really, really fast. And you can't wait and say, oh, I've got 90 days to like do my rounds. No, you literally have like 2 weeks. Go, 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 go. Set up like 30-minute back-to-back meetings and keep that up like after you get there. Like, and I think that's the other thing I would say is, don't just stay focused on marketing. Like, make sure that you are reaching outside of marketing and getting to know people and what they do outside your company, within your company, in different disciplines. I think that would be my biggest advice. And then the growth mindset, like, just keep learning, keep pushing yourself, be an athlete. I love that.
That's probably a great place to wind down. Anything you want to share with us, Miriam, on what's next for you, or what has your eye? That would be a great way to maybe wind down.
Yeah. So just pushing forward with Kairos Growth Advisors, and we just launched our website, Kairos Growth Advisors.
I saw it. Congratulations. It looks great.
Thank you. Very excited about that. And just really want to help companies with, AI, disruptive technologies, marketing innovation, and just helping them move forward.
I love it.
Thanks for having me.
Well, Miriam Kendall, thank you. How can people find you, by the way, besides Book an Expert?
Yep.
Do you have a way they can connect with you?
LinkedIn, Miriam Washington Kendall.
For a good time call. Just kidding.
Exactly.
No. For expert advice. I don't know if I can say it. Does that make sense?
Amen.
I don't know. We can't swear because they have to mark us explicit if we do. So I don't know if we have to. Well, we'll find out.
They say words on TV now. I don't understand that. We're watching Suits and they say terrible things on that show.
Let's do a cheers one more time to Miriam. Her welcome.
Cheers.
Let's do a cheers. Thanks for joining us, Miriam. And I love the awesome mug. Thank you. And we hope to have you back whenever you want to come talk about marketing stuff.
Awesome. Thanks for having me.
Nice to meet you.
Cheers.
See ya.